Hi everyone. Today we are going to make 5 bookmarks. And for these I'll be using gold marker along with watercolors. So let's get started. For the first bookmark I'm going to use red, purple, turquoise, and ultramarine blue. Start by making irregular shapes of different sizes. So here I'm using all the colors except ultramarine blue because I'm going to use it for the areas that are left unpainted. Don't overthink this part. Just load your brush with color and lay down whatever shapes come to your mind, circles, ovals, or irregular forms. The paper I'm using tend to dry faster. As you can see, these shapes have already started to dry, so I didn't have to wait much. But if you also don't want the colors to blend, you'll have to make sure the adjacent colors dry first before painting the background color. As you work on your bookmark, just keep in mind that we don't have to be perfect. So try not to overdo it. For example, if you add too much blue to the red, it might lose its vibrancy. Just be careful not to make the paint muddy by overmixing your pigments. Currently, this background may not look good, but that's okay. Sometimes you just need to trust the process, and things fall into place. Oftentimes, first washes look a bit underwhelming. It's the subsequent layers that do the magic. And even if you also don't like the end result, that doesn't mean you have failed. That just means you have learned something new. And these bookmarks are fun, an easy way to practice your skills. You can experiment with the colors and the types of doodles you make. Now, I'm adding more pigment to the blobs to make them darker. Now, let this dry completely. As you can see, the colors here have not blended perfectly. That being said, I was happy with the end result. As I said, you just need to trust the process and start making some doodles with the gold marker. You can make spirals, leaves, flowers, etc. So the theme of today's video will be doodles and flowers, but you can make anything that comes to your mind or anything that's easier for you to make. Just be as much creative as you can. In case you are wondering, the size of these bookmarks is around 8 inches by 2.5 inches. And I'm using the type of marker that you need to shake, and then press the nib to release the ink. Making designs like these can be very relaxing and fun, so make sure you enjoy while making them. I personally think that it looks good after completing, as it gives a galaxy or outer space vibe. And you can't really tell that the background didn't look perfect. Just always remember, the most important thing is to not give up and keep going on. Things will work out eventually. And with this, our first bookmark is complete. So let's move on to the next one. For this bookmark, I'm going to use yellow, red, orange, and green. First, apply clean water on the entire bookmark and do yellow for the first layer. Here I'm not doing a flat wash, but making it uneven. darker in some areas and lighter in others. I'll be using yellow just for this layer, and the rest of the colors will be for the next ones. Before you start, it's a good idea to think about your colors. You might want to avoid layering complementary colors over your base, since that can make things look a bit dull. But colors that are not directly complementary can also look muddy. So, as a general tip, one great way to choose your colors is by testing them first. Just grab a scrap piece of paper or a small section of your sketchbook, apply your first layer, let it dry, then apply the other layers to see how they truly look together. Now back to our bookmark. Once that first layer of your bookmark dries completely, imagine where you're going to paint the flowers and make their centers with burnt umber. These flowers can be of any size and shape. For this one, I'm using pink and making medium-sized rounded petals. Now I'm adding more pigment in the pink to make a darker flower here. The petals are still rounded, but the shape is slightly different. Before painting the petals, I waited for the center to dry first so that colors don't mix into each other. For the next flower, I'm mixing a little bit of red in the pink, and this time I'm making the petals a bit thinner and longer. Finally, I'm making larger petals with some orange. Now I'm using different greens to make leaves in the empty space. While the leaves are drying, let's add details in the flowers with red or orange paint. I'm adding very simple and basic details. While making these bookmarks, if any of the section is still wet and you are working on another section, be careful not to smudge the paint. I wasn't careful enough and ended up smearing some of the paint for one of the leaves. Now, in the empty space, I'm going to make some spirals and dots with red and orange. Wait for it to dry fully and start adding outlines and details with the gold marker. I did end up doing multiple coats of the marker in some areas where I felt it was a bit light. And this bookmark is complete as well. Now, let's move on to the next one. The colors I'm going to use are pink, ultramarine blue, turquoise, and some greens. For this one, I'm going to be fairly loose. and start by making something similar to a blob with turquoise, and then let it dry. And then use a darker value of the same color and make a circle to represent the center of the flower and lines to represent the details in petals. Let this area dry. Meanwhile, I'm going to make another blob using ultramarine blue. Now, I'm using ultramarine blue to make more lines here. Let's add some flowers. I'm starting with a pink one here. For this particular bookmark, I'm waiting for each layer to dry completely before adding more details. So, while this pink flower is drying, I'll move on to work on other sections like adding more blobs or starting other flowers on different parts of the bookmark. While this blue flower is drying, I'm going back to our pink flower and adding some details into it. Next up, I'm adding a leaf on the corner here. And then a flower at the very top of the bookmark. Finally, I'm painting the remaining empty space with a light pink. And after that's done, I'm going to darken the original pink flower a bit more. Now it's time to add some doodles with our gold marker. There was something about this pink flower that I didn't like, so I made lines on each petal with a smaller gold marker. And with this it's complete, and we can move on to the next one. First, apply clean water on the entire bookmark. Then start from the bottom and paint turquoise, then yellow and red at the top. The first layer's all dry, so it's time for the second. Now, in this corner, I'm creating a small flower-like doodle. For its center, I'm painting these curved lines with green. Notice I'm leaving gaps between each line, as that's where our golden accents will go. Make petals with red paint like this. Making another flower here, and after that I'll make some leaves. Now I'll make two separate branches. The leaves are larger at the bottom and smaller at the top. I'm using turquoise and green for the branches, respectively. Now it's time for the gold marker. With this, our final bookmark is also complete. Let me know which one of these you like the most in the comments section. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.